Hello everybody, my name is EK and welcome back to another video. Now today we are talking about the fishing announcement. Now the fishing announcement has received a lot of negative attention on, well, especially Reddit, but across all sorts of social media. I've seen people bitching, fishing is not, a big mechanic, fishing is not something I want, fishing isn't hardcore, fishing isn't combat. I've seen a lot of negativity regarding fishing. And I want to give it a bit more of a positive spin. I think fishing is not all bad. Do I see problems with fishing as the main mechanic? Yes, there are problems. But what I want to focus on in today's video is the things that fishing can do well. And especially the things fishing could do for cooking. Because I think fishing and cooking go hand in hand. And the reason I'm saying that is because Arenanet has said in the past, in multiple interviews, that fish as a cooking thing, so like fish as certain food types, has specifically not been added to the game with the specific purpose to have them available later down the line in case they ever did want to add fishing. So the fact that they're currently adding fishing probably means that they are looking to implement cooking in, or like implement fishing into the cooking system. Now I'll come back to that in a little bit. First, I want to talk about how I want them to implement fishing in general. Like, let's push cooking to the side for a moment and let's talk about fishing itself. Because I think fishing can be implemented in multiple different ways and the implementation really matters. So people, before Path of Fire launched, were very negative. They were like, we don't need mounts, we have waypoints, why would we need mounts? It's gonna, give us a movement speed. And at this point in time, we're about 4 years after the launch of Path of Fire. Everyone loves mounts. I mean, obviously mounts have their problems, and I've talked about them in the past myself, but mounts in general, like the way the mounts were done, the way the mounts feel, the way the mounts move, the way they're all different, like they all have their own specific niches. Like, mounts were pulled off so well. I have never played a single game, both online and single-player games, that pulled off mounts to the same extent that Guild Wars 2 did. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because when I look at the community's backlash currently regarding fishing, I'm feeling the exact same way that I felt when I saw people backlashing against mounts. And Arenanet has proved that they can pull it off when they say that they're going to go, hard on a certain topic or like on a certain feature. I want to give them an opportunity to prove that they can pull off what they're saying they're going to pull off. So, how do I want it to be implemented? Because there's multiple different ways. There is obviously the way where you have a certain minigame where, you have your fishing rod, you're on a boat or like on a pier or like wherever, you press F on the water or something and you have to play a certain minigame to actually progress. Personally, I would really dislike that. I do not like fishing minigames. I do not like having to, actively play something as I'm fishing. That doesn't mean that I want it to be an AFK activity. But I do not want to consistently be playing some, because I remember playing fishing in other games, like you have to keep like a fish between a bar or something, like Stardew Valley or any other mechanic. It's often very, very tense actually. Like, you can't really autopilot because you're constantly having to look at it. If you look at it away even once, like you fail the minigame. It's like, in a sense, it's like almost harder than doing raids, because in raids you can for like half the time, you can just mash your face in the keyboard. Like you can press the buttons in the order that you've memorized across like 1,000 hours, and as long as you're like semi-awake and you've cleared it multiple times, you can like muscle memory through pretty much all of it. Like, it's great. Fishing minigames are often like quite randomized, where you have to, like the fish will jump up and down or something, and you'll have to match the movement of the fish with whatever minigame you're playing. There's usually some kind of gimmick there. So personally, I'm opposed to having a minigame there. But the other side of the spectrum is having it be a complete AFK activity. Because that's something I would hate even more. If Arenanet creates a system where you can go to whatever fishing spot you want, you press F, and you start fishing for hours and hours and hours and hours. That would be really bad. For the simple reason that there will be people, and I might on occasion be one of them, I have been one of them, where you just leave your computer on, you just, let your character do the fishing, and you fish for hours and hours and hours. Like, all the downtime you have while you're at work, while you're sleeping, while you're eating, while you're doing homework, while you're cleaning the house, while you're working out in the gym. while you're doing whatever. All this time, as long as you don't mind paying the bills for it, you can just have your character fish and fish and fish. Now, this creates a situation where you have a bit of a problem, because the fish being caught by those people will be massive. Like, you will be catching a ridiculous amount of fish because you're fishing all day, which means that to make sure those people just, don't flood the market with millions of fish, the fish needs to become extremely rare. But that means that people who do not do that, so people who, for example, do it for like an hour a day or something while they're eating or like watching a show or something, they won't be able to do anything because they do not have the time to invest. So there's a bit of a problem there where you have to not have it be an AFK activity where, people can AFK for 24 hours, but I also don't want it to be a system where you have to play a minigame all of a sudden. So how do I want it? Well, the way I personally want it structured is I want it to be a system where I still have to press F and the fishing still goes automatically, but once I catch a fish, I have to re-engage the fishing mechanic. I have to press F on the pond or press F on wherever I'm fishing again and, start the fishing process over again. Because this means two things. It means I don't have to put in serious effort, so I don't have to actively engage in fishing for the sake of, getting a result. Like, I don't have to constantly be looking at a mini game and making sure I optimize everything, which to some people might be really fun. I don't like it. It's my personal opinion. If you do like it, don't worry, let me know in the comments, and I'm kind of curious to see how many people fully disagree with me and really just want a fishing minigame, because those people are definitely out there. I've seen you, don't worry. But I want it to be a thing where, I throw my rod into the water. Well, not the entire rod, imagine throwing the rod into the water. That'd be something. But no, you throw, the fishing part of the rod, you can clearly hear I don't fish. I mean, I haven't fished in like 15 years. So anyway, you throw it into the water. Catching a fish might take anywhere from like 30 seconds to like a couple minutes or something. You get a pop-up saying like, hey, you caught this fish. And then when you've caught the fish, you have to press F again and re-engage the fishing mechanic. That's the way I want them to implement fishing. So you have to be present at your PC, but you don't have to actually put in, serious effort to be fishing. Now, there is an alternative, and the alternative is that you can AFK fish, but that AFK fishing gives you very low results. And, it's just kind of a diminishing returns kind of thing, where if you fish for 8 hours, you could probably achieve the same thing in like half an hour of active fishing. People have talked about it a little bit. I think it's an option. I personally don't think it's a very good option, because I don't think you want to promote people being AFK all day, because at that point, you'll just be on like whatever lake and you'll see like 40 people just semi-AFK or AFK fishing there, which is like, I'm not the biggest fan of that. The game might seem a bit populated, but when map chat's completely dead, I'm not sure that's the best idea ever. So that's how I want them to mechanically add fishing to the game. Create a mechanic where you have to press F every couple of minutes, the fishing goes automatically, you get a fish in your inventory. So now let's talk a bit about not necessarily how I want them to implement the fishing mechanically, but how I want them to implement the stuff around fishing. So I would like there to be multiple things. First of all, there needs to be a lot of different types of fish, which I think they've said that there are. So I think they've said there's over 100 or 200 different fish or something. I haven't checked out the announcement video in like a week or so I'm not quite sure exactly what they said. But I do remember them saying that there's a lot of different fish. I want them to be spread across different locations. So for example, in ore, you can find like dead fish or like undead fish, I suppose. Maybe getting dead fish is not optimal. Might be a bit smelly. I mean, then again, ore fish should be kind of smelly too. But that's it's a different topic for a different video. You go to, like the Maguma jungle or something, and you might have some like tropical fishes, and you go to the, like up in the north around like Bitterfrost and around, Puros Marges, etc. And you'll have like some like frozen fish or fish that can handle the cold very well. You could have very differing like themes for fish, and then within those fishes you would have different rarities. I would like them to have a system where you have like, you have your basic fishes. Like, I could even use the equipment system. They could have like rare fish and exotic fish and ascended fish, and maybe even like do something with a legendary fish. I don't really have an idea for that, but that would be a possibility, I suppose. I want there to be very rare fish. So I want there to be a situation where you're fishing and you're like, oh, did I just... Guys, did I just really get this fish? Like, you send the screenshot to your friend, and you're like, oh my god, dude, you got that fish? Kinda in the same way you get a precursor drop, I guess. Or like, maybe an infusion drop. I wouldn't want it to be that rare. I want it to be a kind of fish where if you're consistently fishing for a month straight, you'll probably get like 2 or 3. Like, it's not like super rare, but it's also rare enough to the point where if you do get it, you're excited. You're like, ooh, I got that fish. And, obviously you need to be able to trade those fishes. I want them to be able to trade fishes on the market and, create like a healthy community or like a healthy economy for fishes. And I also want there to be, and this is probably something that is very much within me, as I am someone who really likes having a progression system. I know Guild Wars 2 is a very different beast when it comes to progression. I know Guild Wars 2 is not about increasing the level cap. But what I would like them to do is I would like them to have a system in place where the leveling mechanic for fishing is very similar to the leveling mechanic in World v World. And that might sound a bit weird at first. But the way it could work is, the masteries are like your stepping stone to the entry level fishing. So when you're doing the mastery system, you can get like learn how to throw your fishing rod thingy, learn how to use baits. Like you can have like certain bait, like it's like a food buff or something. Learn how to like throw it off a boat instead of from the coastline. Like maybe you can't immediately throw it from a boat. You have to learn how to throw it from a boat because otherwise you fall off or something. Like there could be many different things that I could use the mastery system for. So I think the mastery system should add like the core functionalities to fishing. But then I want there to be a longer term progression system. I would like there to be a system where while you're catching fishes, you're constantly getting experience. Experience that goes into, a bar, giving you levels. Like, you could have, the actual number doesn't really matter, but you could have like 100 levels or 1,000 levels or like 10,000 levels. Like, honestly, it doesn't really matter as long as the implementation around it is good. You can, really fine tune the numbers around the system. And then I do really like the leveling system in World v World, where in World v World, for example, you can, you can auto loot, you can get gliding, you can get the Warclaw mastery, you can get like additional damage to siege, you can get additional damage to guards. There's a lot of different things, and for fishing you can do a very similar thing. You can, for example, have a mastery that allows you to speed up your fishing a little bit. Like for every point in this tree, you fish like 5% faster. Or you get like a 2% increase in drop chance. Like, certain like magic find system for fishing specifically. Or maybe you have a certain, leveling system where you get better when you fish in the Maguma jungle. Or you're better in the Shiver Peaks. Like, you could do so many different things. And I want there to be a longer term progression system because that will keep people fishing and fishing and fishing. And that will also make it so that fishing is like a long term progression goal. You can just be someone who's like, dude, this guy is so good at fishing. Like, whenever I see someone with like the ultimate dominator title, which I think requires 100,000 World v World kills. I mean, I have the game in front of me right now, so hold on. Let me go into competitive, because I haven't really played World v World a lot. I really do think it's a great game type, but I haven't really engaged with it too much. Well, I've probably spent like between 50 and 100 hours in World v World, and I have a total of let me see, 3,217 kills out of 250,000. That's like slightly over 1%. Well, I've played at least tens of hours in World v World, so that means that I would have to play probably like thousands of hours of World v World to get the ultimate dominator title. Now, translate this to fishing. You could have a system where you're like the ultimate fisher, or like the ultimate fish god, or like fisherman, or like, give it a cool title. Like, I don't really care what it's called. Give it some title. Give it like maybe multiple steps where like like first you're like a novice fisher when you're like level 10 or something. Now when you're level 50, you're no longer a novice fisher. You're like a professional fisher, and at some point like you're a god a god fishing amongst men or something. Like it really doesn't matter. But I just want that to be a progression system where you can spec the different things yourself. Make it like a separate leveling system, just like World v World. And I think if there's a system in place like that, then people will get really excited about it. People will be like, oh, like this new area going to be added. Like, let's say we're going to a completely new continent after Kantha is gone. Like, let's say there's like, End of Dragons, there is Season 6, or like the Kanthan Saga, or whatever they end up calling it. And we go to a different island, like a different continent even. People will be like, oh, there could be like new fishes. And like these new fishes will probably give me, new rewards and stuff. Like, it is a bit of design depth where, if they create a system like this, they kind of have a necessity moving forward to add more fishes. But I can't imagine adding more fishes to be particularly difficult. It's not like you have to design an encounter, like you have to design a fish. Like, it doesn't sound too difficult to me. So I really want them to have a system in place like that. And I know I'm ranting a bit, but, that's the type of channel that I am. So, if you made it to this point, by the way, we're probably like, I'll probably cut out a bit, but we're probably like 15 minutes in or something. So respect for you staying around for this long. And we haven't even talked about cooking yet. So let's get into the next topic, which is cooking. Because cooking is a bit of a weird one. Because cooking, I always thought that they wouldn't add Cooking 500 and Ascended Foods before they added the fishes. Because I would think that they add fish, and fish then gives you the Ascended Foods, and the Ascended Foods then give you like certain buffs. So I think they kind of missed the mark with that, but there is still some room. They could either say we're making a different type of Ascended fishing, or like Ascended Foods using fish, which has different benefits, or like it's a different acquisition path. But I feel like that would not be very interesting, because we already have a very easy acquisition path, and I don't think people really need a different acquisition path for Ascended Foods. So what they could do, and this might be a bit of a weird one, but they could make legendary foods. Now, legendary food could require a lot of different fish from a lot of different regions, and they could make it in a way where you cook that one recipe. Let's say it's like, the steak and truffle, like the standard power food or whatever it's called. I keep forgetting the names. But let's say you get that one. Like it's an Ascended food, but it's a legendary version of that food. It's not like you have all the food available to you at all times, but you have that specific food available to yourself at all times. You cannot share it. It's not a buffet like it is with Ascended, because if it's a buffet, then the problem is you need one person to want like one type of food. So let's say you're playing Fractals or even Raids. As long as you all have like one of the foods unlocked, you can provide any buff for any party member at any time. So what I want it to be is, and it's probably a bit of a niche thing, because it's also not a system that's gonna impact everyone around you, but it's gonna impact you. So it's gonna be like a personal Ascended level food that's unlimited, and you can access from I would like to say like a different menu, like a utility, like a novelty kind of menu where you can just like click the food, bam, gone. You get the food. Or even, maybe make it permanent. Like you click it and it's gone, or like it's there until you remove it yourself. Like it doesn't really matter how it works, but I think a system like that could really work. And it would also put some incentive on people to, first of all, go fishing. It should be a reasonably long-term progress. I don't think it should be like legendary armor or like raid legendary armor level progress. Like it's probably not at that level, but I do want it to be at a level where you have to do a lot of fishing, and the fact that there is legendary food to go for, and multiple different types of legendary food, because you can get the power food and the condi food and the healing food and like boon food, like whatever. Like there's all kinds of different foods, and that could create a very healthy community, because then people could be trading fishes back and forth because they need a lot of fish. Just keep in mind the amount of lumber and the amount of ore that you need to craft like Astralaria or something. Like you need like 40,000 mithril ingots or something. Like I don't know the number, but it's a ridiculous amount. It makes no sense in lore, but hey, that's not relevant. It's a video game. But anyway, that is how I would like them to implement cooking as well. And I don't think cooking is really necessary, but I think given the fact that they've talked about it so many times, actually, let me rephrase that. They haven't talked about it so many times, but they have specifically mentioned that they wanted to keep it fishing, and they're implementing fishing. So if they don't add something with fishing now, then when will they add it? I'm not quite sure, but probably quite late. Anyway, that is all I wanted to share for today. I could share way more on this topic, honestly. Like, I didn't even write a script for this. Like, this is just me ranting for like 20 minutes already, and I could keep going for a while, but I don't want to, I don't want to be the most ridiculous ranter ever, so I'm gonna cut myself off here. If you like to, hear more about this, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts as well, because I'm really curious what people think about the whole like fishing mechanic, and the way it's structured, and the way it's it's not really content, in the way it's it might not be the key selling feature for the expansion. Like there's a lot of different doubts in people's minds, and I might talk about those a bit as well. Like I might make a follow-up video talking a bit about the negatives of fishing, which there definitely are. But I hope I've given some ideas as to why fishing could be really cool, and it's a lot of fun socially as well. I think I have 3 friends who play Guild Wars 2, and I'm just imagining us, being on a boat, going out, getting our fishing rod there, throwing the fishing rod into the water, as I said earlier today, and, just having some fun and catching some fish. And then, when one of my friends gets a fish that I really wanted to get, then, obviously I'm going to drive over there and, I might get into combat. So, there's combat involved in fishing. Anyway, where am I going with this? Thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a nice day. And if you made it here, I'll see you around. Bye, guys. Must have been the vaccine talking. Pretty sure.